leave up to mind. I don't owe no one, no obligation. No one owes me none, so everything is fine, fine. I said I am that I am, I am, I am, I am. I am that I am, I am, I am, I am. I am that I am, I am, I am, I am. I am that I am, I am, I am, I am. Serious business. There is a time for everything, and for everything there is a season. So man and man must reason. So I think it's prime time that we address some more issues. Simple information I will use. No rocket science to get you confused. So relax your mind, make sure everything is fine, while I take you down a poetic line. Trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain, you now refrain. I remember you say Liberation Day, and I ask, you sure is that you wanna say? Cause you sounded so good to believe. And deception is a powerful thing when you lose your rightful thinking. So we voted for the bling. But you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain, you now refrain. Yellow, yellow all the way is what everybody say. Cell phone ring, man answering. Yellow, yellow, no hello. Teeth get yellow, house get yellow, bus get yellow, man get yellow, even green get yellow, and so says 11-4. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain, you now refrain. Old school parables say you know what you have, but you don't know what you go get. So cherish what you have to diminish regret. But what on earth lasts forever? Not even things created by the great Jehovah. So the green grass ceased to grow to allow the yellow vibes to flow. But boy, one song I sing, one bell I ring. If we didn't know, we never know yellow would have treated us so. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain, you now refrain. They began with the blame game, giving NNP more fame. Past administration, the cause of frustration. Past administration, chief of corruption. Then to economic recession, we can't give you attention. Economic recession, the cause of poverty in the land. Economic recession, no employment for the ordinary man. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain, you now refrain. All your projects are stuck in a pipeline, but when asked, how is the country going? Oh, fine. We are looking into it. Never mind. Only projects in pipeline. No water to cool down the yellow temperature. When will they start? Please answer that. Oh, soon.
And a good night to you, Grenada, Carriacou, and Pity Martinique. Once again, it is time for Talking Points. Now, 4 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock on the Spice Isle of Grenada. And of course, you know, we have a guest that's going to be on with us tonight, former Prime Minister, leader of His Majesty's opposition, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell. So he'll be on with us in a short while, just letting the numbers build up. And so he's all ready to go. Ready to go. So he'll be joining us in a short while.
Poverty and hunger throughout Grenada. 1,000 Frenchmen can never be wrong, but you hold your yellow conviction strong. So why not send them advisors home? They're sucking money like water in foam. And rehire the Imanis, less stress on the economy. You and Manchester hold up the country. You didn't see us down by the Bury when they send SSU to beat we. Trick us with campaign promises, we won't say a tease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease this strain, but you now refrain. You now refrain. So we've heard about your internal division, but some can't digest that one. Remember the man say he's an asset to the party? And will we vote you without him? You left him with Glenn alone. Maybe they cloned. And however, I foresee a pretensive unity that will mislead a lot just before the next ballot. But you guys will have to come real good, cause it's a long time Grenada ain't eat a food. You think politician good? Trick us with campaign promise.
As you all can see, just making sure everything is all well and ready to go. I don't want to steal a minute from you all, so we're going to be bringing on Dr. Mitchell in a short.
You remember in the Bible, God had a plan for Jonah to restore Nineveh? But
you know, in fact, let me give you all a special tune to bring on Dr. Mitchell tonight. There, let me make sure we give you all a special tune for Dr. Mitchell tonight. Some folks were asking me for this one last week.
This wall anyway I go, I bound to come back. Little Grenada, this land of my butt. When I take a look at the horizon, only dotishness out there I seen. Hatred and evil in the hearts of men. Lack of manners, respect already gone. Shake it, Mitchell, boy. Samota mope moka hele. Mizena ladina mushe Mitchell. Nam naka tuye nam. Shake it, Mitchell, boy. Samota mope moka hele. Mizena ladina mushe Mitchell. Nam naka tuye nam. Wonders and signs in the hands of time. Fishes dying in the ocean. Grenada pity Martinique and Caribou. Disasters and problems we going through. Keep Mitchell, boy. What are you afraid of balling? Trouble in Grenada, Mr. Mitchell. Man start killing man.
Yes, indeed, folks. So, yes, as promised, we have on with us Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, and let's just make sure we're hearing him properly. Good night to you, Dr. Mitchell.
Good night, Sheldon. Of course, good night to your listeners throughout the length and breadth of the beautiful spice country of Grenada, Carriacou, and PD Martinique. Good evening.
And how has it been going with you, sir? I realize I'm seeing the smile on your face as you interact with the people.
Yes, we have ushered in 2023 with a sense of what we have gone through over the years, and of course, understanding what we used to be accustomed to, and of course what is happening today. So we are pretty clear what the fundamental difference with what is occurring today as opposed to what went through in the last several years in government.
Yes, indeed. And as we begin, I know that we've lost one of our stalwart, a lady who has done quite a lot for our island. That's Miss Ann Hopkins, went to the great beyond last night. I know you'd like to offer your condolences on behalf of the party.
Yes, certainly. She has been a stalwart of support for the particularly the less privileged in this country, as you know. Those of us who are in government, public service, those of us who are conscious enough would know that the major concentration has to be our ability to deal with the problems faced by the marginalized and the people on the lower echelon of the economic ladder. And certainly Anne has made more than a contribution in that regard in helping people that need help. And she has done it over the years, but selflessly so. So I'm a great admirer of the contribution and service of Ann Hopkins, and of course I think the country would have lost a really solid friend in Ann.
Yes, indeed. Dr. Mitchell, we have loads of people online, loads of people listening on the various stations, and so sir, I just want to get right into it. I was listening intensely to your budget presentation and several of the points, the key points that you were making during that budget presentation, especially as it deals and we're going through issues as opposed to the cost of living and different things like that. I know one of the things you were speaking about was the fact that things like the housing assistance was cut by some, I think, $12.2 million. The asphalt program reduced. Give us a little insight into your views generally on budget 2023.
Well, I did point out, Sheldon, in the presentation that it appears there was a pretty, what I would consider clear difference between what the Prime Minister, some of the statements and numbers given by the Prime Minister in his presentation, and that of the information in the budget document. And I thought that was extremely unfortunate. In fact, I don't think that piece of information has certainly reached to the length and breadth of the country, because clearly, if you have a document from which activities of the country has to be taken, then I find it difficult to understand how the statements of the minister can be completely, in many cases, different. Mm-hmm. And what was really strange is that we did not hear any response. Here you stating numbers of the committed numbers for a particular program, which involves, of course, what people would want to see or do not want to see, and then another document that really speaks to it is saying something else, and that's a bit frightening. And I heard absolutely nothing from anyone, not advisors or anybody, concerning the statements. It seemed like it was just passed over, and it's a very serious issue as far as I'm concerned. So it's clear that there was a serious problem as far as the budget presentation, and I spoke at length on those matters, and I did not hear any response. And it appears that the public as a whole has not seemed to gather that piece of information sufficiently. So we have to reiterate this, because that's a very serious matter as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, and in fact, one of the things that we intend to do during this week is to replay that section of your presentation so that listeners would get an idea of exactly what it is you're referring to. And in several areas, when you look at the comparisons between budget 2022 and budget 2023, you see the significant reductions. I mentioned the housing, which means generally that less people would be afforded the opportunity to get housing assistance. We've heard as well what happened to some of the housing brigades. Asphalt, in other words, the road patching, fixing of the roads and that sort of thing, reduced by 8.5 million as well. And one of the key ones that I know you spoke at length on during the budget presentation as well, the reduction in the amount of money placed in the youth programs specific to the Empower and Imani programs, $10 million. So I don't know if you want to expand on that one a little as well.
Well, not dealing with just the specific, I'm talking in an overall sense. I described the budget as a serious attack on the poor people of this country. And it appears that the government seemed not to be able to understand that some of the fundamental purpose of government is its ability to take care of the marginalized in the society as a priority. Everyone has to be given a chance. But there's some people that need government more than others. And it seems that every action that was taken to reduce resources was in the area where the poor people seem to benefit. And you could name all the money, almost every program that has been cut or removed are the ones that were serving the poor people of the country. And then you see actions taken to to relieve the commitment of those of us who are in a better position to provide service to this country. And that to me is extremely serious. And I didn't see the passion. I did not see the empathy coming from the government side as far as that issue is concerned. And it seems to, I got the impression that people, when they were talking about cutting and talking about people are being fired and people are being removed from the opportunity to earn a living, it appears that people were almost enjoying it. It seems like they were very happy. And that to me is extremely significant. It seems like they have missed the fundamental reason why some of us are involved in politics. In politics, if you are not dealing with the most serious issue will confront in any country, the ability to move people up the ladder, so to speak. If you are not doing that, giving them the basic amenities of life, then I think you're reneging on your fundamental responsibility, why you are in politics and why you're in government.
So, as you mentioned that, we've seen a marked increase in the cost of living. What $100 would have given you this time last year, or even 5-6 months ago, you can't make it with $100 right now. Have you seen any measures in the budget that's going to address that? I know they mentioned the reverting the costs of the freight back to 2019 and these sort of things. Have these had any serious effect or will have any serious effect on reducing the cost of living? All of us feeling it.
No, we have seen the so-called freight reduction. We see the statements made as if to imply that people will see some serious benefits to them, and clearly they are not going to see it. They will not see it, and I'm certain they have not seen it. And of course, what will happen, those who are in business might be able to benefit more than they are doing at this particular time. But the poor people will continue to see increases in a very serious way. And there was no attempt in any serious program to deal with that point I just made, which is attempting to protect the vulnerable in the society. And that, to me, is fundamental. And they have missed the boat. And what you see is a lot of attempted image building and all the sideshows, the propaganda, the social platforms, and the fake messages and fake persons giving messages and attacking people. That's what we see, and the government seems to believe that is going to increase their support. Now, that may have worked when you're in opposition and a government was in office for several years that people may have got tired with. But when you are in government and given an opportunity to provide service, and all you're doing is platforming and messaging and propagandizing, that won't work. And they would find out sooner than later that this is going to work seriously against them. I am not spending a lot of time because they don't seem to understand the fundamental basis of why they are in government, to serve the people of the country and to serve particularly to protect the marginalized and the vulnerable in the society as a whole.
Two final ones on the budget before I move on. The first is $350 million loan authorization bill. I know you've been in the parliament of our country for a significant amount of time. Have you ever seen a loan authorization bill to that figure? And the other part of it, I think 6.3 under the budget statement, where they mentioned disposal of assets as a means of funding the budget. I want to hear your views on both of those.
No, the loan authorization bill is what it is. Even if it was 100 million, 50 million, it is what the number was. But the key thing is it demonstrates that the government itself is admitting that to fund its primary expenditure program, to fund its budget, the current side of the budget, that it is in fact have to raise a loan. And that in effect is a clear admittance that they are not going to get the revenue based on the budget, the initiatives of the budget that they have indicated. So that in itself is a fundamental weakness of the budget document in itself. And I think that is extremely crucial, because in the last several years, the government of the NNP was able to provide major surpluses on the recurrent side, which was used to finance aspect of the capital development program, which is what philosophically you're told what government is supposed to be doing. Managing its recurrent side to the point that you can have savings and be able to use it to develop and to build the capital stocks of the country. And it appears that certainly is not the case. And in addition, they're talking about selling assets. I mean, the last NDC government sold almost everything was on earth in Grenada. In fact, it was almost laughable. They sold items that the government did not own. And so, in some cases, so it seems like that is the core of the management process of governance, is to be able to take assets of the country and sell it. Now, as I said over and over, you have a shop or business, and all you're doing is selling assets, piece of the shop or the business every month to pay workers' salary. You won't have a business for very long. And that is again the problem. So we recall that the giveaway of the Grand Lake to WRB years ago by the previous NDC government. And what happened? What happened to the country? And the removal of the Public Utilities Commission to manage rates of electricity in this country. And what happened? The WRB, and quite rightly so, they are businesses, they got a good deal to take it. And the country was made to pay a heavy price, to the point that when we were ready to take it back, we had to pay so much more. Now we are hearing signs that they're considering selling. To me, that would be a major mistake. And I don't believe the people of this country should allow this government, who seem not to understand the gravity of that decision, not to allow them to proceed to sell Grand Lake, which is a serious national asset. In fact, a monopoly asset. And I've heard in the grapevine, and I hope I'm wrong, that they're also considering removing the power of the Public Utilities Commission again, which was done before. So it's a bit frightening. So the combination of this loan authorization, which I said is not by nature of the size of it, because they can put $1 billion and simply not use that amount. So it's not the size, it's the fact that they're admitting already, projecting that they will have to get additional money to meet the recurrent side of the budget, and that they're also looking at selling assets. And it seems like the only possible asset they could consider selling to get any revenue in this country, I don't know if we have any more, they might start selling some of us. Then they seem to me the only one is the same Grand Lake. Now we know what we bought it for. So they're going to be difficult for them to attempt to sell it for less. But then why are you doing it when it is in fact a major monopoly service that almost everyone has to take service from? And that to me is serious. I heard their argument that the Grand Lake was not making enough profit. I heard that argument, and the company was not doing well because of the reduction we've given and the facilities we have given the people of the country. No, Grand Lake was by majority owned by the people of the country. They're not owned by those of us in office who were then in office and who are in office today. They're not our assets. We are just the guardian of those assets. So if people are under pressure as they are right now with the increasing prices of energy and prices in general in the country, then it seems to me that giving concessions like the 25% reduction on the non-fuel charge, which you now have removed, this is the people who owns it are the ones getting it. So why are you angry that the people are getting something that they own if it is their service? So I find it's a fallacy to raise that point, and I thought it was certainly unfortunate that was being advanced as an argument to remove the non-fuel charge and the concession given to the consumers in the country as a whole. And I could mention another issue. Remember, we did say remove the VAT, the EVL on the electricity rates.
Yes.
Remember, so they have brought it back. You remember also we talked about the question of the reducing the VAT. No VAT on electricity quantity of less than 500 kilowatts. Remember we did that? Now they have put 5.5% VAT on all levels of service of electricity.
And we're actually putting up right now what the policies of the NNP versus the policies of the NDC from the budget document. We've actually put it up on screen now so that viewers could actually see the reality of what they have done and how that will affect their pocket. So we've actually put that up now for the viewers to be able to see. But
during the budget presentation, we did advance a few calculations. We gave examples of a consumer who are burning 500 kilowatts or 800 kilowatts, and gave a few categories. And we showed under their initiatives relative to grant to electricity, as opposed to what we were doing, that the consumer in almost every case will be paying far more significant amount more than they would be paying. They would have been paying under the policies of the new National Party's government. And the people are under more pressure today than 6 months ago as far as increasing prices in almost every area. So it appears to me that the government is certainly not thinking or does not have the aptitude necessary to understand the implication of the pressures people are facing in the country at this time. And I just want to, as I complete on this whole aspect, let's accept that in dealing with any economic situation, one has to realize confidence level is a critical factor in anything what's happening. And you can see the mood in the country as a whole. You go around the country at all levels. No matter where you go, what parts of the country you go, you see the business is down. The businessman is telling you that. The bus owners are telling you the serious reduction. The market vendors are telling you they're not getting sale. The shopkeepers are bawling out there. Every aspect, the fishermen, the farmers, everyone is every single individual category of workers are going through enormous difficulties. And the economic situation is dire at this particular time. But it appears when you see the government side, the guys are happy, they're fetting, they're having fun every day, it's a $200, $300 party and so on. And they seem to be very happy and comfortable, thinking that they're extremely popular and the people love what they are doing, when in fact people are under serious pressure going forward. And I think it's something they would have to do, a realignment of some of the things that they're doing if they hope to survive economically and politically. It is clear to me, I don't know if it's clear to them, that they will have to do an adjustment and as far as the policies and initiative and programs are concerned. Otherwise, I think it's going to be a downward spiral continuing. Because
we've also seen the adding of an environmental levy on water, and this is going to affect the people who use a lot of water, especially like the farmers, who are now going to have to pay an environmental levy on the water that they're using. They didn't exempt farmers and other people in industry from the amount of water that they have to use. So it's going to affect businesses as well, and farmers, and the price of food.
As I say, I couldn't understand the rationale, except trying to just get extra money. But there must be a better way of getting extra resources. But while you're doing this, which affects the poor people in particular, whether it's the farmers or other persons consumers in the country, they are giving concessions and talking about the increases in stabilizing the issues of VAT on for businesses and giving them some period of non-charges for a particular time. You know, I think it's unfortunate that they don't seem to realize that is a fallacy in itself, and it's not necessarily good for the country as a whole.
Okay, and we'd like to say a good night to listeners joining us via We FM. We're saying a special good night to you all on 93.9. Also, our listeners on Real FM 91.5, 91.9, CRFM 89.5, and Sister Isles in Carriacou 92.9, and in Brooklyn 94.9. That is Noise Radio. We're saying a special good night to all of them and all the viewers on YouTube and Facebook. Dr. Mitchell, we've had recently some robberies taking place even within your own constituency. I know there was a gas station robbery there just a few weeks ago. The issue of national security. I know usually when a situation like that happens and you have a spate of crime, you see your national security minister comes out and they say something and so on. What are your views on what has been taking place with the crime situation recently, the spate of robberies? We've even had a situation where guns have been found on the port. We've had the Prime Minister speaking over the weekend of guns coming into the country in barrels and containers and boxes and so on. What are your views in relation to the situation with national security taking place in Grenada right now?
Well, it's well known that Grenada has been seen historically as one of the safest places in the region. And we have not had serious incidents of violence, multiple incidents of violence in the past. So it must be concerning to all of us that we are seeing this happening at this particular time. And it seems to me the police force and the Ministry of National Security must be concerned. And I would expect that some serious effort is made to deal with that particular problem and do not allow it to fester, because it can have serious consequences on the name of the country and affect confidence in the investment climate in the country as a whole. So I hope and pray that these are just incidents that have happened and that we won't see a continued occurrence of those situations. And I do also want to just make the point, as based on what the Minister of Finances said in his last budget presentation, when he hailed the budget as such an excellent budget. And of course, as if, well, manna is dropping from heaven. And then, and his New Year's message, he said that bang your belly, things are going to be rough. So I don't know how the budget could be an excellent budget, because if it's excellent, that means it's servicing the people and there's a great hope outside it. And then soon afterwards, he comes out and he says, bang your belly, and he says, this year, 2020, is going to be the roughest year. So I think the Prime Minister has to be more careful with the use of those words, because it does send a message that he's running conflict in one statement as opposed to another.
Yes, indeed. And folks, let me just say, We Noise Radio is the station that's with us out there in Brooklyn. I just want to be careful. We Noise Radio. All right. And Dr. Pitch, another issue that's very topical right now, we've been seeing around the meetings in relation to the Marketing and National Importing Board. I don't think it's an issue you've spoken on for 2023 publicly yet on. Your views on what is taking place and what is being proposed by the government. They're giving different things and saying, well, one is to send home half of the workers, one is to send home everybody and accept the liabilities of Marketing and National Importing Board. Various models are being put out there. Your views on what is taking place right now in relation to the Marketing and National Importing Board?
Well, first of all, I think, to be fair to the government, we have to admit that there is a serious issue of the running of the marketing board and it's the founding fathers, and whether in fact the mandate of the marketing board is by the founding fathers were in fact being met at this particular time. I think we have to agree that the farming community, the farmers, and those who benefit from the initiative of the marketing board are not getting what they're supposed to get and what the intention was they should get. So clearly, I think we have an issue of the running of the marketing board, its effectiveness and its ability to provide a service as required. And we must not play politics with things that are fundamentally So the government is not wrong to indicate that there is a problem, because we ourselves in government did admit there are fundamental problem as far as the running of the marketing board and the need to control expenditure and to provide the kind of service and benefits to the farmers and to the country as a whole. The question therefore has to be what sort of model and how we go forward. And I'm not sure that the government has analyzed the situation as correctly as they should. And there have been a lot of statements made. In one time, get rid of the marketing board. I heard the statement being made even before the elections. Another time, get rid of some workers. Another time, get rid of that. And there is no consistency of position. It seems to me a more informed position has to be, and proper analysis of the situation, financial and otherwise, and to look at how you can see to it that the marketing board meets its fundamental responsibility as envisaged by the founding fathers. And at the same time, reduce wastage within the system. You may have to, of course, look at how you reorganize the marketing board in general and provide more direct service to the farmers as a whole. It may, in some cases, even mean increasing job opportunities. I can't say that we should lose a job or two. Maybe the categories have to be different. Given we have the world we live in today is scientific, and therefore technology has to be given more priority as far as the institution is concerned. But I don't think the government is handling it well. I don't think they are looking at the marketing board in a serious scientific way to provide the necessary confidence level to the farmers and to the country as a whole. So certainly more engagement, more analysis needs to be done before a serious decision. And I would say less talk, less statement about getting rid of the market board, firing workers, and I don't think it's helpful. The wild statements I hear are not only coming from one person. Sometimes one minister says something, another person says something. It's really inconsistent with what managing a serious institution is concerned should be.
Yes, and especially with the workers who have to go to work every day wondering if today is my last day, this is my last month.
It's very difficult for them.
And also facing a lot of criticism out there as being portrayed by some individuals as thieves and that sort of thing. It must be very difficult for some of the workers who are working, well, all the workers who are now employed by the Marketing and National Importing Board.
Well, as I said before, one of the fundamental problems is this government, it talks too much loose. There's too much loose talk by several persons. You know, there's some people in government, you have the Minister of Works involved in managing the Ministry of Infrastructure. Then another minister goes on a road project and making a statement as if he's the minister. And another one goes and makes a statement. So you want a sort of helter-skelter approach to governance, because everybody wants to show up themselves. Everybody wants to show the image. And it seems to me, if you have an infrastructure program project, the Minister of Works is the one that we should be listening and hearing from. And the only other person may be the Prime Minister to add his voice. But there are too many egos in this government. There are too many people want to be heard. Too many people want to be seen. Too many people posturing for the public publicity and so on. And it's causing, I don't know how the Prime Minister is continuing to manage that sort of situation, because he himself needs to control the statements he makes. But he's still the Prime Minister, but the kind of behavior pattern I see there is making it extremely difficult. I don't know how I will be able to manage a team like this, honestly.
Yeah, you have ministers announcing holidays and then having to come back and take it back, so...
It's crazy stuff. It's almost laughable indeed. I don't know, maybe the Calypso will have a field day in the next carnival season, because too many things I see happening it's almost laughable.
Well, you even have ministers speaking about who's going to jail and who definitely going to jail and that sort of thing.
Crazy stuff. As if the Ministry of Justice doesn't exist. You have an Attorney General commenting on a workers' situation where workers have proceeded to were fired and before the system is allowed to function. The Attorney General, who is the Chief Legal Officer, and also the Minister of Labour, making a statement saying that this was correctly done. Nah, this sort of behavior it cannot give confidence. As I mentioned before, in anything you're doing in life, confidence is a fundamental factor. And if there is no confidence, it's going to be difficult for any environment to succeed. And especially when it mixed with the lack of empathy and a lot of arrogance. There's sometimes a lot of arrogance being displayed. And I always tell political persons even in my own government in the past, in my own political party, the worst thing a politician can have in any situation is to be seen as being arrogant. When you are seen and defined by the constituents or the population as arrogant, you finish politically. You might be living a dream. You might be believing in yourself and listening to yourself, but the doomsday will come when the people get a chance to pronounce their verdict.
And as you've mentioned, the issue with the Minister of Labour, there has been a situation. In fact, just before this program, I got a message with another letter of a lady that was sent home from the geriatric care program after 5 years, someone with their family to take care of and so on. And we've been seeing that situation, especially in Carriacou. We've been seeing it here on the mainland in several places. Your view in relation to what is taking place with the mass firings that are taking place. Individuals who got a call the last day for the year that come January 1st, you'll not be working. That sort of thing. You start your year not knowing if you're going left or right. Your views in relation to this?
It's also a measure of the novice behavior of a lot of the members of government. Many of them are first time in government. And it seemed that they had a funny view or concept of what ministerial duties and function and the thing that governs the behavior of political persons. So it seemed like you are getting rid of workers and then you appear to be happy. That's the perception you get. The faces that seem to be smiling when you are announcing the removal of workers and sending people home, even at close to Christmas time when a lady or a gentleman has to think of how we're going to take care of his family going forward. Then you tell him he has no job. And sometimes the basis of no job is to say that you suspect he was a member of some other political organization. It's a bit frightening that you know. So you have serious problem in the public service with contract workers in the public service. That is well known. In various areas, people have been terminated and so on. You have the CES program where a political person who ran for election is a key player in deciding who gets loans in the CES program. This is madness to the highest level. And the lack of accountability in this process. The caregivers program, this program provided such badly needed service to the poor people of this country, to a lot of senior citizens, in some cases who have no one to care for them. Now you send all of these home. These are poor workers. Many of these have gone home. And the question is, do not even apologize and say, well, because of pressures of this, that you may have to take some action. It seemed like people enjoy. And I heard the statement made, this is what? Restorative justice? These are nice big words, but these affects people's bellies. It affects people's children. It affects people's ability to eat properly. And this government has to show a lot more care if it wants to be taken seriously going forward. The environmental wardens, these are poor people. All of these workers they are ordinary people in the country. So you're sending them home. They're state workers. The debauches program at Christmas time used to have 6 and 7 fortnights. Where people working, thousands of people working through the length and breadth of the country. You see the country was busy and buzzing in the last 4 years before this last election. And what happened last election? Last Christmas? The place was dead. Some of the most busiest place you're passing in the country. That people was always lining on the blocks and fellas enjoying themselves. They were empty. And you see, going to the new year, you see the same thing. The Carriacou ministries, the staff of the Carriacou ministry, many of them have been sent home. And the callousness, the lack of empathy and it's almost boasting that is my power to do it, and I can do what I want. It is a bit frightening what you see, and some cases the workers in the Maribor abattoir station, and so on. The Maribor station itself, many of the workers who were brought in and providing a service have been told that this is their last month in many cases. The Grenville market workers and the general staff, all of these people have been sent home. I don't understand how our government could feel comfortable, and how anyone could feel comfortable appearing to give support to a government that is destroying their own people. I don't understand it. It is quite strange, but that is the nature of man itself.
Dr. Mitchell, while all of this is taking place, while people who are earning a little $800, $1,500, $1,000 are being sent home, we see government ministers within less than 3 months of taking office take an increase of $2,000 on their salary. I mean, your ministers were there for 9 years. I didn't see any increases during that period of time, certainly not during my time. And afterwards, your views on what was done and what would you have done had the call been made to increase ministers' salaries? How would you and your government gone about increasing ministers' salaries?
First of all, I'm not going to play games with a fundamental issue. I think we all agree that the salaries of members of parliament, not just ministers, members of parliament are just too small. So this is a fact. But my difficulty is the government resources are not owned by the ministers of government and the prime minister or the government of the day. These are the people's money. And you ought not to sit in a room by yourselves as ministers, as it appears to have been done, and decide among yourself what amount of increase you should get. To me, this is fundamentally immoral. And anyone wants to defend that something is wrong with this. The money in the treasury is not the minister's own. It is the taxpayer's own. So if there is a justification, as I already admitted, there is a justification, there appears some mechanism which is independent of the political directorate should be established. And in our case in government, in the 1990s, when there was a decision to do something, we established a commission. In one case, the first case, we had a man like Derek Knights, who was not well known to be any NNP sympathizer. We had the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank providing one individual. And we had Mr. Henry Joseph, who's a well-known, even now we could see him as a key supporter of the National Democratic Congress. But the NNP government had him on a commission as an accountant, because we wanted a balance. They made recommendation. And when we were looking at it again, we did took a similar initiative. But this time, the members just came into government. They haven't done anything yet. Seriously, they haven't worked yet. And they raised the salary each man by $2,000, and they put it on the traveling where there would be no taxes. Had they put it on a salary, there would have been a tax on this. But they significantly, or wisely so, in their interests, decided to put it in a place, in a category for which they don't have to pay any tax. So I think it's highly immoral, and I think the government ought to realize that that decision was faulty and was not necessarily in their best interest politically and that of the country. But while they're doing this, you're sending people home, poor people home with that only, some case only $900, $1,000, that you raise your salary by $2,000. I mean, that does not make sense. And I think those of us must understand, as I've always told members, when you get into government, clearly the priority cannot be about your salary and income. If if government salary was the basis for my entry into politics, I would never have been in politics. It seems to me that there must be a fundamental other objective, which is service, not at the expense of your destruction of your family, financially or otherwise, but service to the country is a priority, not the income that you get. If that is the priority, then you don't belong in the politics.
Yes, indeed. And we see now the Public Workers Union, TAU, GUT, etc. I haven't heard from GUT right now. Teacher Jude, you're still missing in action. But over the weekend, we saw the Public Workers Union putting out a release stating that the offer of the government 4% for 2023, 2% for 2024, 2% for 2025. And remembering that from next month, they're going to be losing 1% anyway with NIS. So it's really 311. That's the offer that the Public Workers Union has refused. And they said they've been waiting for a meeting, 3 meetings. Government has not met with them. The police union, they have also been offered 422. Teachers union missing. It seems as though, I don't know if you take a trip to some other place, but we're not hearing the teachers union president at all. He seems to have gone silent since June last year. June and Jude seem to have gone silent since June last year. Your views on the present situation? I know you wouldn't want to say much in relation to it, but especially with the wage increases and the inflation that we see taking place, general comments in relation to that.
No, I've said the program of salary negotiations is a historical one. I mean, we know that every 3-4 years there have to be some renegotiation of wages in the public service, and you start at one point and you end at another point. So clearly, the public workers and the unions that serve them has to negotiate in good faith in the interest of the workers, and also being aware of the limitations of the government resources, because one has to be careful at what you do and what you commit, and that your ability to pay and meet fundamental basic services have to be a factor. So I recall that when the last year the negotiation, we had offered for 2023 4%, and the unions rejected it. The only group that accepted was the police service. So they assumed that they would be getting the 4% increase in this January salary and onwards. But what they said to us, they accepted under one condition, that if in the final negotiation with the rest of the public service, that additional amounts to the 4% is given, they have to get the increase too. And we couldn't argue with this, because we couldn't give one side of the public service an increase in one area and the other side something different. So we had agreed to that. So the police was being very smart. And we were even prepared at that time to give 4% for the next 3-4 years. And that was almost an agreement and understanding we had, but it was rejected. So what I hear about is 1% now and all kinds of stuff. That's a decision for the unions. And I'm a responsible person as far as the political directorate is concerned. I would not say that everything the union asks for, they must be given. That would be highly irresponsible. Maybe other politicians may do so. That's not me. I've never done it, and I wouldn't come to do it at this stage in my political life. And it seems to me, if I was a union member, I would have a problem when negotiating, in the sense that since you are able to give yourself $2,000 monthly and justify it as the political directorate, I want to know what I'm giving my members. My members may want to have problems with me negotiating for a very low increase, when in fact you have just overnight just given yourself $2,000 per month without tax. That's a frightening thing. So that's where we are, Sheldon. That's what I would say at this particular time.
All right. Dr. Mitchell, we're going to open the phone lines at 9 o'clock, just letting folks know. We're going to open the phone lines in the next 5 minutes or so. And of course, 440-7377. You can call on WhatsApp, or you can call directly. We will be opening the phone lines in the next 5 minutes. Over the weekend in Carriacou, I heard the Prime Minister again speaking on the Polish matter of some Polish man that came in, and there's he didn't mention the cabinet conclusion for some strange reason. The discussions around the cabinet conclusion seem to have disappeared from his repertoire, but he was again speaking in relation to the matter. Now the figure has moved from $290,000. Now it's moved to $300,000. Your general statements in relation to this issue of the Polish gentleman and this money issue and this sort of thing.
I think the Prime Minister has made a serious mistake and a mark that will go against his prime ministership. When a prime minister speaks, he has to speak facts. And if you make a statement that is incorrect, then you have to admit it and correct it. I was not perfect in government. At times I made statement was not well informed, and I admitted it and apologized, because I think that's what a serious public servant is supposed to do. But I think it's unfortunate that in doing so, the Prime Minister, it seemed to have intended to besmirch the character of the previous government and the ministers of government. In fact, by making the statements that there was a cabinet conclusion of 290, I don't care whether it's 290 or 350, it was totally lie. A lie is a lie. And it seems to me that if the Prime Minister received that from someone and said it, he should deal with that person and apologize. But to make a statement like this, which is totally false, he has been called upon time and time again to provide a copy of it, because I was the chairman of the cabinet, and I know it's false. And I know there was no such cabinet conclusion, because every single person that were appointed under those conditions with other commitment to provide services had to provide $150,000 to the technical fund, which they now are using. And I don't know how they're using it. I will be asking questions about the use of the technical fund, but because we did have a policy of how it should be used. And I know there were over $7 million in the technical fund when we left government. So I find it strange that you would say that there was 290 in the cabinet conclusion, and 150 ended in the treasury, and 140 ended in the account of some constituency account. It's unfortunate. And when asked to provide the document, the Prime Minister provided a receipt of the 140 and monies that was given should end up in a bank account of a constituency. And he knows that was not the issue. Because if someone received a gift, and I did not know anything about, I've said over and over, I knew nothing about the 140 in the constituency of South St. George's. I made no apologies for this. I knew nothing about it, and so on. But that does not mean there was something wrong. Because if an election is on, and you're seeking donation, let's assume that a political donation was sought, and someone received it. The NNP received lots of support from persons in and outside the country. The NDC received lots of support. So if someone provides support but there is no law that deals with financing of election campaign. So it seems to me to talk about 140 political donation and trying to mix it with a cabinet conclusion is extremely, to me, I don't want to use that word, but to me, it's dishonest. And it seems to me that should be corrected. Because one thing we must not do as politicians, to lie on each other, especially when dealing with money is concerned, because people tend to feel that all of us, the people generally believe politicians are dishonest people. And I think they're not going to give one set of politicians and take out some. It will be something that will land on everybody's back. And I think for the Prime Minister, who's the chief person in the country, to make a statement like that, I think is extremely unfortunate. And I'm still waiting for the Prime Minister to admit that he was wrong and what he did. If he was given the information by someone, then that person should be disciplined. And he should apologize to the country and to the former government, because it's just not right what was done and what was said. I am confident that there is no such cabinet conclusion, and it cannot be presented because there was no such decision by the government of the day. It makes no sense. It would be ridiculous if something is officially known and it's part of the policy as 150. How only one conclusion out of maybe, well, scores of conclusion honorary consuls were appointed. Only one come out to say it's 290 when everybody else is 150. Does that make sense? If somebody is dishonest, is that the way you attempt to steal? That doesn't make any sense. And give the country more credit than what was being said. It's not right. And I hope the Prime Minister one day will correct this sooner than later.
And Dr. Mitchell, we're hearing the Prime Minister speaking about appointments and diplomats and appointments of honorary consuls. Strange he isn't mentioning that he was an honorary consul to Grenada. On behalf of another government, he's speaking as though something is wrong with having individuals who are not Grenadians as honorary consuls representing Grenada. But Mr. Deacon Mitchell was an honorary consul from 2007 to 2021 of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. I wonder why he's not mentioning that part of it. If something is so wrong with, is he a citizen of the Netherlands? But he was their honorary consul to Grenada, but he's giving the impression that it's wrong to be an honorary consul?
Well, he also gave the impression that contract work is illegal. Huh? He's sometimes famous of making statements which he can't defend. But as I said before, he's new and maybe it's taking some time, probably more than is required, to understand that these statements, the less he says things, the less he talks, the less he will have to defend. And that's the only advice I would give, but that's, as I said, I know if I tell members of this government to stand up, they will run, and if I say run, they will stand up. So I don't wish to offer any more advice in that regard.
Yes, indeed. And folks, it's now 2 minutes after 9. We have on with us Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, former Prime Minister, leader of His Majesty's opposition. I'm still getting used to saying His Majesty's. His Majesty's opposition. And the phone lines are open. You can call 440-7373. You can call directly, or you can call on WhatsApp using that same number, 440-7373. And you can also call us on our international line. For those of you outside of Grenada, we know the diaspora is listening. 347-329-3101. And let me say a special good night to the literally hundreds upon hundreds of listeners on the line. So let me take the first call on the... Let me make sure it's the WhatsApp line that I'm putting up here. Let me take the first call on the WhatsApp. Good night. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yes. Hi. Good night. Go right ahead, caller.
Good night, Sheldon. Dr. Mitchell, how are you?
I'm not sure. Dr. Mitchell, are you hearing the caller? For some reason, I'm not hearing Dr. Mitchell. I don't know what's happening.
I don't know if Dr. Mitchell is hearing me.
I am not hearing Dr. Mitchell, though, and I'm not sure what is happening. Let me just see. Oh boy. Yeah. Dr. Mitchell?
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, hearing you perfectly now. You're hearing the caller?
Yes, I heard him.
Good night,
okay, go right ahead, caller.
Good night, Dr. Mitchell. How are you?
Good night, my friend.
Okay, Doc. With the current situation of our nation, how long can the country withstand this situation? Because it's for some, they actually you have said it all. There is nothing much left to be said. But the middle and the poor people are cut off to a certain extent, or to the most of the extent. So how long can the country will continue in this situation?
Well,
thank you, caller.
Thank you.
One day is too long if things will not change. But certainly, my hope is that the government would have been able to assess the 6 months of governance in the country, would have understood that there's a serious pain throughout the length and breadth of the country at all sectors of the society, and that they will move to correct their decision making and their method of governance, and that things will change. Because if things continue like this, I see us having major trouble going down, major public confrontation with the government, and that would be unfortunate, because Grenada is always known to be a very peaceful society, and I would not want to see we descend into chaos in the streets. But when men are hurting and they don't feel that the leaders they appoint are listening, they're likely to take unnecessary actions. I hope and pray that we won't see this, and that's why my call is on the government to listen, to change its course, and understand that particularly the poor people of this country requires them to listen to them more, and to listen to their pain, and to take corrective actions to help them to deal with the present problem facing the country. We have already, my friend, have asked our members to get in a list of workers that have been sent home, who've lost their jobs in every single constituency, and meet with them to see what can be done, or we can provide some help in terms of advice, not necessarily having any serious financial help in opposition, but ways of meeting with them to give them hope, because there's a lot of hopelessness outside. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of anxiety. And that worries me, because I find it's more than I've ever seen. This is 38 years, 39 years coming up that I have been part of this parliamentary setting in the parliament of the country. And I've been in opposition twice before with the two NDC governments. And this is the third one, and I've been in government several times. And this is the worst I've seen it in terms of how people feel outside and what is it appear to be evolving in the society as a whole. It's the worst I've seen it.
All right. I think we have a caller on the local line. Caller, go right ahead. Hello? Oh, yeah, my mistake. You caller, go right ahead.
Hello?
Yes, you're live, caller. Go right ahead. Yes, pay attention to the phone line.
Consequences.
Hello? Hello? Okay. That caller isn't paying attention to the phone line. Let's see. I think we have another call. Let's go back to the phone line. Yes, good night. Hello? Yes, you're live. Go right ahead. Yes, you're live, Cami. Go right ahead.
Good night, Sheldon. Good night.
Good night. I hear you.
Sheldon, good night, and good night to my beloved Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Mitchell. Good night, sir.
Cami, good night. I hear it loud and clear.
Sheldon, Dr. Keith Mitchell, good night, sir.
Good night, Cami. Good night, my friend. Good night.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead, Cami. Pay attention to the phone line.
Sheldon,
Just go ahead.
I want to tell Dr. Keith Mitchell something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I, as a vendor in the town of St. George's for years, right? And the prices of goods, Dr. Mitchell, is problem in this country. Let me tell you something. One, the tall pan, they have the Arizona, is $8. And another thing, a Welch is $10, sir. And it's for all the years I as a vendor in the town of St. George's. First time I experiencing that. We don't have a price control officer. Every sale van that pass is a different price. And we as poor people is feeling that pressure. And I don't know, Dr. Mitchell, that the ministers in government and the prime minister and them have no sympathy for poor people like me and others. Yeah? They have no sympathy for the poor people, and I don't know if they have a heart, because the symbol is a heart. No sympathy for poor people, and poor people in this country is feeling it. You know the next thing, they're afraid to speak. They have a muscle on the mouth, but they're feeling the pressure. Police officers, nurses, doctors, civil servants, they're afraid to speak. They have a muscle. And the next thing, the third thing is, when I hear the NDC government, the ministers in government, say you did nothing for Grenada, nothing. I could recall the houses, the schools you build, the by roads, the people you give scholarship to go and study. They say you did nothing for this country, and it's a cost they put on Grenada, Caracas, and Martin. I have a friend that come to me in tears. They send her home, and she voted for NDC. She's not an NNP. She voted for NDC, and they send her home. You know, it's sad. And you have some people in America, yes, they leave Grenada, they don't come back in Grenada, they're in America, and they're running their mouth out there. And I know they're listening tonight. Come home and see what happened in Grenada over the years with Dr. Mitchell and his members built Grenada, the terminal. I remember Ray Roberts say, you see what I'm going to take the terminal and go in Grenada. Every Grenadian making $1 and that was terminal.
All right, Kami.
But they just come with the food
Kami.
and the drinks and the vegetables, the passing and the selling under the NNP government.
Kami,
Yes.
remember we had to get others to call too, so
Yes,
we go take the rap day.
And I love you, and we miss you. The Grenadian people
Kami.
miss you, sir.
Take care.
Have a good night.
I think we understand what you're saying. I think the pressures are, I know the promises made to the police officers have been reneged on, to the nurses, to the public workers, the fear inside the public service where some people are running roughshod over others. It's a frightening situation, but nothing goes on forever. And as I said, our job is to work together as citizens. And I make the point, I hear statements being made by some government officers in some cases talking about let's work together. But how do you work together while you're firing all my brothers and sisters? I can't work with you and not tell you that you are destroying people's livelihood and some of the people that I feel that we care so deeply about. So it's difficult for me to hold the hands of someone who is damaging my brothers and sisters, particularly people from the poor working class of the country. It is frightening that I can't do it.
Well, Dr. Mitchell, as you've mentioned that, I know there have been several things circulating. You've been seeing things on all different types of media in relation to the Honorable Delma Thomas. What is the situation with the Honorable Delma Thomas? We're hearing about traveling on different things. We're seeing her at different functions. And so what is the situation with Sister Delma Thomas?
Well, she certainly has not spoken to me and sought my advice and spoken to members of the party and sort of that. She seemed to be doing what she perceived as right as a person. But I think we all must recognize when we talk get people votes, it's not our vote. The people in Northwest St. George's that vote gave me over 1,600 votes surplus. And gave me over 2,000 plus votes. I don't take it as my vote, so I think, but the sister has not spoken to me, and yet she has not spoken to the party. Party gave no permission for any such engagement, so that's a decision for her. That's what she's done, and certainly not the right approach, certainly, but I would not say a lot more on this matter at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. 440-7377. You can call on the WhatsApp. You can call directly, and I think we have a caller on the WhatsApp. Go right ahead, caller. Hello.
Hey, good night. Where is Sheldon?
Hey, good night to you, sir. Go right ahead.
Good night. Dr. Mitchell. Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Yeah, Sheldon, I want to stand and testify of a solid foundation and a real transformation that took place. All right? And that period was during 1986 to 1989, where we have a NMP administration undertook the ambitious rural electrification program that increased the percentage of homes with electricity from 45% to 90%. Without this program, half of Grenada would have been in dark age. The effect was staggering. You have refrigerators and other electrical appliances was sold out. The economic activity grew. The private sector's construction increased. The micro businesses took root. Students had a more comfortable studying environment, which resulted in the improvement grade. And all this occurred when the electricity company was under control of the Ghanaian people. So you see, when the electricity under the control of the Ghanaian people, a lot of development took place, and the people of Grenada life developed better. And this is just
All
some
right.
of the development and the transformation that took place with NFP as government.
All right. Thank you very
I
much,
hope we
caller.
do that.
Yes, indeed. 440 Doc, I don't know if you have any response to the caller. You were speaking of some of the things that took place in the previous time when the government of Grenada owned the Grenada Electricity Company, the electrification projects, and different things that took place.
I did go through at length in the budget presentation when the Prime Minister replied to the Prime Minister saying that no serious transformation took place in this country since 1983. And I was able to show that he may have been a little boy at the time, and of course had no knowledge of what he has meant, how it came about. So I had to provide some serious education in that regard. Some people thought it should go back in the past, but that was a clear basis for what is taking place today. Had we not done this, the country would not be in the position it be to take off at another level. So he's right that the ambitious program that we implemented. And what we have to do now, the government should be, instead of saying nothing was done, like some people, which is a foolish political statement, what you have to admit what you met and give credit where credit is due and say, now is my time to take it to the next stage. That is what should be done. Instead of that, nothing is done. I'm now here, the Messiah has now arrived, and we will do everything that we promise. And you know the disappointment that is taking place for the length and breadth of the country, for all the promises that were made and cannot be fulfilled.
All right. I think we have a caller online. Good night. Hello? Okay, it seems we lost that caller. Callers, in some instances when you call, because Dr. Mitchell is making a point, I would put you on hold for a short while. So you just have to hold for a short while. Let me just clear the box. You may have to hold for a short while. So we have a caller who is online right now. Good night. Hello, good night. Hello. Okay, also remember to pay attention to the phone line, not the device that you're listening, not the radio station, not the device. Pay attention to the phone line itself. So we're back to the phone lines. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
Yeah, good night. I'd like to ask the Prime Minister, the ex-Prime Minister, if the money, if Sheldon Scott people...
You're wasting time here tonight. Let's get somebody that makes some sense. All right, we have a call online. Good night.
Hello, good night.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead. You're live.
Mr. Scott. Good night to Dr. Mitchell.
Good night, my brother.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Right. Okay. Let me say hats off to Dr. Mitchell, and I'm glad to know that you have taken up the reins now, because I wasn't hearing you. Things was happening, things was saying, and I haven't hearing you. I'm glad that we hearing you now, and I'm glad to know that you are dealing with some of the utterance that came from the NDC as a party and the government now. We hope that you continue. I too have a problem with the way that Miss Thomas is going around. I don't have a problem with her going to functions, but I think she have shown like if she done away with the party, and that is not in the right thinking. So I glad that you clearly add to it to an extent, because I too had a problem with that. But I'm glad to know that you're on, and I hope that you take it, because there are a lot of things that have been seen, and we didn't hear in your voice. So I'm glad to know that your voice is there, and you take the leadership there.
Yes, my brother, I will continue to do what I have to do in the interest of my country, no matter what position that I hold. That has been my historical behavior, and I certainly would do this. You have to understand, the government was elected in June 2022, and we were in government for a long time, and the people said they wanted change. They said they wanted a new government, and therefore I felt it was necessary. I felt they heard me long enough and to give them a chance, and I felt it was necessary to give that honeymoon period to the government. I have watched with some measure of concern some of the things that are taking place in the country and some of the decision-making process of the present government, and I've taken notes, and certainly I'll be expressing my views as I've done in some cases tonight, and I will do that. But I will continue to be there in the interests of the people of the country and to make my contribution in no matter what position I'm in the society at any given time.
All right, and we have a caller online. Good night.
Hi, good night, Sheldon.
Hey, good night. How are you? Yes,
Good.
go right ahead. You're live.
Sheldon, I have a question. It's not a little long, but
Well, give me the short version.
I'll give you the short version. Sheldon, most of the jobs, and I'm glad Dr. Mitchell is there with you, most of the jobs that the people being sent home from, these jobs was created under the new National Party and not under no other administration. So it wasn't a case where the new National Party comes in and fire people and take their supporters and put them in these jobs. And certain utterance make it look like if, well, these people were people who came into these jobs because when the National Party came into office, they fire certain people and take these people into these jobs, which is not true. And there's certain utterance make it look like that. Because when some people say, this is something we government do when they come into office. I mean, it seems so, our government create jobs for people. Create jobs around the country, and another government will come in and take these same jobs, fire the people, and put in their party hawks. We have seen NDC is doing a new thing in a more radical, hurtful, evil, and hateful way by taking out innocent people, like people who are working for $800, $1,200, $1,400, $1,800 a month. We're moving them from jobs that they're doing so well, sending them home, and replacing these jobs with other people, our day party hawks. I think this is an evil that NDC has now created in the society. And I think somehow that the politicians must speak up more on that, because you can't hurt your right hand to please your left hand. And it's something like that's what is going on. And it brings so much pain to the people. So much pain, because people were working for 8 years. Some people were working for 9 years. And you just send them home and telling them that because they were under a contract. So a contract is an evil thing to be under. So you could just send them home and replace them with new people. I believe, in my opinion, Dr. Mitchell, I think this practice that NDC is doing is evil. It comes from the belly of the devil. Thank you.
All right.
My brother, I think even the NDC doesn't seem to understand the political implications of what that position. This is a small society, a small family society, and I think they do not understand the firing of one person whom you perceive may not be a supporter, and in some cases voted for them. But even if they did not vote for them, they have family, they have friends. The getting rid of one person in a community may not just be a vote. It could be a whole family and sometimes a whole village. because people are related in many different ways. So political is a backward statement, it's a backward approach, but that's their problem. They will find out sooner than later the actions of victimizing people, firing people and laughing about it and making joke about it is so counterproductive politically, and it will have serious implications on the ground for the government of the day. And I just don't think that, because they're all novices as parliamentarians or government persons, and I don't think they understand the root cause of how people turn against a political organization, because they have never had that experience. But the damage of it has been done to NBC. The brand has been quite significant in the last 6 months. But that's their decision. That's not our decision. That's theirs. So they'll pay the price.
Dr. Mitchell, one of the questions that came in a bit earlier, you were the last occupant of the Prime Minister's residence at Mount Royal. So something wrong with Mount Royal? Because from what we're hearing, it does not seem as though the present Prime Minister is utilizing that facility. And obviously, it seems as though significant sums, I'm hearing figures, I don't want to call figures, but hearing figures are being paid for another facility for the present Prime Minister. What's taking place with that? Something was wrong with Mount Royal?
I'm not aware. I live comfortably, but you see, I'm Keith Mitchell, and Eric Gary stayed there. Hubert Blaze stayed there. Former Prime Minister Tillman Thomas occupied there, but not necessarily slept there. So I don't know what made it not suitable for the present Prime Minister. Maybe he has better taste than I had. So maybe that's his over. So that's a decision of something you have to explain to the nation. It's something I think a question should be asked. I know it's costing the taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars on a yearly basis, and in a time where you're sending poor people home for $1,000, I think it's extremely unfortunate that you would end up spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in a place that, and where in fact there was a place that is historically the home of a prime minister, and that could save that money and employ so many other persons and provided a livelihood to people in the country, and to use it effectively for other developmental activities in the country. But that's a decision for the Prime Minister to explain to the nation.
Okay, we have a caller on the line. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Sheldon, good night.
Good night.
Yeah, and good night to Dr. Mitchell.
Good night, my brother.
Sheldon, my issue about this government, I am desperate, and I'm feeling the pressure desperately for a lot of people in this country. You know, I recall that I spoke about a lady with 6 children, and she in the warden, the environmental warden gang, and they gave her a letter to send them home. Now that lady used to get the little seed to help her children go to school. You know, when I hear that lady talk, tears just come out in my eye. I wonder why some people don't have no kind of feelings or empathy for the people or the poor strata of our country. I am wondering, Dr. Mitchell, I know they removed this seed, and I don't know what advice you could render to these guys that they could change their mind. Please, these people definitely need help. Single parents, 6 children, 2 in secondary, 2 in primary, 1 in... come on. I mean, they have no feelings. Thank you very much.
It's sad, because I think the fundamental characteristic of a politician is to have care and love for people. And it appears this bunch, generally, I can't say everybody there. Certainly, I can't say that. I would not say that. But as a body, they seem to be not understanding the basic nature of the responsibility of a political person. But I know the pain is very serious out there because I'm being inundated with requests for people for basic things that they never came to me to before. And it worries me that I don't know if the government side is not getting the same feeling. They seem to be quite happy moving around and boasting about how they seem to be enjoying themselves at the expense of the population. It's quite frightening. So I understand what you're talking about. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the program, the fundamental basis of why we should be in politics is about a commitment to help the marginalized, to help the country as a whole, but to pay particular attention to the workers at the lower end of the economic strata and to help the marginalized in the society. That is certainly non-existent in the mindset of this present group of the present government as a whole. As I said, I can't say every one of them.
Yes, we have a call online. Good night. Hello?
Sheldon, good night.
Hi, good night.
Yes, I want to ask one question.
Go right ahead, you're live. Go ahead.
Right. I want to know why, for how much months now, we're not having a press conference to know what is going on in the country.
Well, thank you very much, caller. All right. So, Dr. Mitchell, I know the caller is asking about the government press conference. I know during my time as Minister of Information, and I know under the New National Party generally, there's a post-cabinet press briefing each week to give information to the public of the decisions made and the direction that the country is going. But as the caller rightly stated, for months now, we've not had a post-cabinet press briefing.
Well, it appears that the government may be finding difficulty facing the people of the country and as far as its decision that it makes in government. We didn't have a problem with this. We face the press on a regular basis, and sometimes questions have been asked, which is even personal. As you recall, one time I had to tell a certain press person, don't go there. So I was not afraid to face anybody because I believe that's the right of the people of the country. But that's a different government with a different philosophy. And of course, clearly it's inconsistent with our own position.
But the importance of the general public being informed of the decisions that are being taken on their behalf.
Very basic. Very basic.
Yeah.
But that has to do with a level of arrogance. That's what I mentioned earlier on. Because it takes the position that you can do what you want. I can tell you what I want. I could say what I want when I want. You have no say. The public should have. That's quite a mindset for a politician to have.
Dr. Mitchell, we haven't spoken about it yet, and we have roughly just under half an hour left. The New National Party as an organization, what is taking place in the New National Party? We know that the supporters are out there. They are listening. They're wondering what is coming up with the New National Party. I know the last major activity the party had was that gathering up in Bathway. I think there's something coming up pretty soon on the 21st in St. Patrick. But what is taking place with the New National Party at this stage? Convention, when is the convention, General Council? What is happening?
Well, the party is, of course, this is only 6 months the government has been in office. This is a new year, and the party established an attempt to reorganize its constituency branches in every constituency. A group of persons have been recommended to lead the organizational work, the revamping of the party's organization at every village and in every constituency throughout the length and breadth of the country. So you'll see a lot of organizational type activity in the next several months going forward. So that is one aspect, and some social activities and of course some political activities will be held, and that the General Secretary and the team, the executive will be, of course, responsible for those and informing the public accordingly. So there is no issue. The party is alive and well. As you know, the public is remembering what it was like when the NNP was in government, as opposed to what is happening now to them with the new government. So I think they're clear that there is a fundamental difference between what was happening then and now. So I don't know that there has to be any major concern about the new National Party. So as our convention is concerned, the mandate of the party constitution is that we must hold one convention a year. We just had one last year, and we have to have one, most likely we'll have one this year, but the party executive is the one that makes decision as to when a convention is held. I might have my views as to when it should be held. I have other people expressing views, but their views are not important as far as the party is concerned. The executive of the party will determine when a convention is going to be held. They had a party in government today that so far 2-3 years they didn't hold a convention. So I'm not saying, and the NNP has not done this. We have stuck to our constitutional mandate. And I just simply saying that I don't know what all this worry about a convention is concerned. We should be more concerned. I find it difficult to understand why we're spending time on convention of the NNP and you have a government murdering the people of the country. That's what we're concerned about. What's happening to the poor workers in the country? What's happening to the poor single mothers? What's happening to the market vendors? What's happening to the farmers? What's happening to the business community in the country and the small businesses around the country? What's happening to the construction sectors? That's what we should be spending, and get all this time spent on when it's going to have convention, whether it's going to be leadership change. And that's not the critical factor. The critical factor is we are supposed to be serving people, helping people, not finding positions and looking for power. That's not what it's all about. Power will come, but let's serve people. Emphasis must be placed on protecting the vulnerable, helping people in the country, not this attempt at gaining positions in organization. Let's get away from this. This does not help. NNP is alive and strong. NNP won one seat in 1.5 seats in 1990. Then it won 8 seats in 1995. It won 1991, 15 seats. 2003, it won 8 seats. NNP has been there with people consistently over the years. We went from strength to strength. In fact, this is the third time we're in opposition, and it is the strongest opposition in terms of parliamentary seats we have had since we're in opposition. So the NNP is alive, and well, in fact, I think the government behavior is helping us to be even stronger.
Yes, and we have a caller on the line. Hello, good night.
Hello.
Hi, good night. You're live. Go right ahead. Hi.
Good night to Mr. Kit Mitchell. Good night.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I want to talk about the agriculture. Sheldon, these are some young farmers. Sheldon, want to plant up things. I don't have faith for the farmers right now because the market won't close it down. They say the market won't close it down. The Prime Minister say something about market more. So where are we produce going? Where we produce going? Where are we produce going? So I want to know what's going on. When the NP was there, that nothing going on. And it's coming for we have a lot of trouble to produce.
Okay. All right, caller. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Okay.
We have a caller on the overseas line. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Dr. Mitchell, it's a pleasure to hear you and see you again. I'm calling in from Toronto, and my question is actually about the consulate offices that we hear are not only potentially changing consul general, but maybe closing altogether globally. Can you please clarify if that is the case? And if so, how is the diaspora supposed to stay in contact with Grenada, supposed to send support? We have so many experienced consul general around the world thanks to your leadership. Is that what's happening? Can you confirm that?
Well, I know we had a consul general office in Toronto. I'm not aware that that has been closed. It would be extremely unfortunate that in a major city like Toronto, where there's hundreds of thousands of Grenadians living and have made such contributions to the development of this country, that we do not have. I have not heard this, and certainly I would find out more about it, but it would be a rather strange decision if the original consul office in Toronto had been closed. I'm not aware of this, and it would certainly be a serious mistake in terms of the service to the country and in terms of the political environment as far as the government is concerned. It would be a strange decision if it actually happened.
Yes, indeed. And folks, remember 440-737. So I know a lot of you have been calling, but the problem is when Dr. Mitchell is making a point, I don't want to cut the point. I want to let him make the point first, and then I would take the call. So sometimes I may punch you in, and you realize that you've connected, but you're not hearing us speaking. You're just hearing Dr. Mitchell in the background. It means that you're through, and as soon as he's finished making that point, we'll let you speak. All right, so you can call on the overseas line. I'm very sorry I mistakenly cut you off. I know you were waiting on the response. I'm very sorry. And I think we have a caller on the local line right now. Good night. Hello, good night. Yes, caller, good night. Hello. Okay, it seems as though that caller isn't paying attention. So we have a caller on the WhatsApp. So call on the WhatsApp. Good night.
Good night, Brother Sheldon.
Good night, sir.
And our dear political leader and His Majesty opposition leader. We, Dr. Mitchell, we really want to thank you for all of your hard work, all of your great services that you have done for the people of Grenada, the people of I'm here, Sheldon. Hi, good night, Sheldon.
No, we're hearing you. You're live. Just continue and please leave the volume of whatever is in the background down. Don't listen to that. Pay attention to the phone line. Continue.
All right. So, I was saying to our former Prime Minister, political leader, and His Majesty opposition leader, I was commending you, sir, for great service, human service that you have done to the people of the state of Grenada. And looking at you there, sir, you're looking so well. And as you always say, that when you go to your bed at night to sleep, you lay down to take a perfect rest, and that's wonderful.
Yes.
You, Dr. Mitchell, has transformed the lives of so many people in Grenada. We know a lot of people are listening you tonight and looking at you. Yes. But I am for one that I want to say to you to continue on the trend that you are going. The reason why I am a member of the New National Party is because of your policy, the policy of the New National Party. And somehow I believe if we had listened to you with all your wise counsel over the many years, we would not have been in this position tonight. I'm hearing so many persons laying blame on you and on the party and so on. But I remember you said vividly clear to us on many occasions, look out for every person in Grenada. Forget the color. When the campaign is on, pick up your T-shirt and whatever and campaign. But let's reach out to the poor and vulnerable people of our country. And I believe if we had really take that at heart and recognize your honesty, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, sir, you have never led us astray. They've tried so many things at you. They throw so many nets at you. And all that they are coming up with is negatives. But the Word of God gives us the mandate to pray for our leaders. I am praying for Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell. Very hard on his team. I am praying for you as the opposition leader on your team.
Yes.
And we are looking forward to that day when Grenada would be united. And I am not talking about this so-called come join together and then you're slapping the brethren in his face and you're doing all sorts of naughty things to them and sending poor and vulnerable people out of a bread, and doing all these things. So I want you to know that you have a very hard team with you, even though some of them did not win the seat, but it's still hard working, and hats off. And I really thank you and the team for your hard work. Continue, sir. God bless you.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, caller. Yes, indeed. And folks, once again, 440-7377, 440-7377. That's both WhatsApp and direct call. Yes, I'm seeing some of you calling on the local line, so you can call back. And those of you in the diaspora, I do know that you all have your questions as well. 347-329-3101. It's a bit difficult to pick the questions out of the chat because it's going so fast. And we have a call on the local line. Good night.
Hello, good night.
Hi, good night.
Good night, how are you?
Quite fine. Your live caller, go right ahead.
Right. Listen, what I would like for the nation to understand is the and what I consider the vulgarity and wickedness of the current administration. Now, the folks who are responsible for the SID program, organizing, coordinating the names of the various persons, do this, do that, how it was structured, 18 of those persons were sent home. Remember very well what Mr. Deacon Mitchell said, that no victimization, no political spite. These 18 persons were sent home and they are replaced with NDC supporters. Grenada belongs to all of us. In spite of what would have happened with NNP, the NNP administration had never been that ruthless and that and neither behaving in an unconscionable way. Okay, this ought to be highlighted, right? I hate it because I know what it means to be poor and what it means to wake and you are struggling for breakfast or even a bus fare. A government that claims it will do or working on a transformational agenda. This is not transformational. They are reminding me in so many ways about the PRG. In a lot of ways, they are reminding me of the PRG, and they are operating like an elected dictatorship. Doc, I want that to be highlighted to the nation, to use all our resources, use every avenue, and let the people know about the atrocities that are taking place. Thanks, and good night.
It's extremely unfortunate. For example, you have workers in the seed program who have been seed program, but some of them have been there for 10 more years plus. And in one case, there's a worker from my own area, Northwest St. George's, Miss Antia Bain, was identified as one of the best seed officers in the country. In fact, when people attempted to pressure her to get benefits that they don't deserve, whether they name NNP or not, she stood very strong. And just because, she was known, she was perceived not to have voted for the NDC, she was sent home recently. The best seed officer had been identified as the best, recommended by staff members in the Ministry of Social Services and by our peers. So I don't understand how any government could come and talk about caring and talking about you love people and just sending children home without a bread. This is crazy stuff. They will, as I said before, they are going to pay a heavy political price, and I don't think they have a clue of the extent of the damage they're doing to themselves politically and otherwise.
Yes, indeed. And folks, we just have roughly 10 minutes, well, really 5 minutes remaining on tonight's program, because I know Dr. Mitchell is a gentleman who usually goes to bed early and rises very early. So I know I'm getting close to your bedtime right now. In fact, I may have passed your bedtime. So we have a call. We're going to have to take the calls quickly. Yes, caller, good night. Hello? Yes, you're on, caller. Go right ahead.
Yes, Mr. Sheldon, good night.
Good night.
Mr. Man is here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. Dr. Mitchell, good night. I feel so happy to hear you tonight, man.
Good night, my brother. Good night.
Dr. Mitchell?
Yes. I'm hearing you.
Hello?
Yeah, you go ahead. Go ahead. He's hearing you. You go ahead.
All right, I'm feeling I get it now, man. Every day I'm digging it up, I get it now.
All right.
So I'm saying good night, right?
Okay, my brother.
I'm listening.
All right, great. Yes, folks, we're going to have to take the next calls quickly, yeah? So you have to make your point, and down the road we're going. It's talking points, so we're making the point. All right. I know a call was coming through a short while ago on the overseas line. Overseas line, if you're calling, I'm going to give you the priority right now. So, again, that's 347-329-3101. And meanwhile, as the overseas is ringing and the local is ringing, we're going to take the local. Good night. Hello.
Mr. Scott, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Yeah, there is a rumor out there, not a rumor, the Ministerial government is saying that Dr. Mitchell left a lot of money in the treasury and it was not being used. And the projects and a lot of projects that had funding for was not utilized. Can Dr. Mitchell clear the end that for us, please?
Okay.
This is such an uninformed statement. It lack an understanding of government. When we got into government in 2013, we had no money. If this government now elected had come into government in 2013 with the NDC former administration in office, they probably would have collapsed in a few months because we had no money. We had to build consensus, work with trade unions, work with the business community, work with a collective body in the country to take us out of the difficult economic situation where we didn't have big money to even pay salaries. As you know, we are selling assets, pay salary. We managed the country, provided all the jobs you're hearing that they're now taking and giving other people just like that. Provided jobs and services and expanded services, even in a COVID-19 period where the country was shut down for a long time. People never came home without a salary at the end of the month on time. And therefore, we managed the country to the point that we had surpluses to do major projects. So this thing about money is being there, it's meant for projects. It's not just money you just spend. Some of it is money given by the international community to do some specific project. If you don't do it, then you hurt yourself economically and you create major problems for the country as a whole. The money is given by the British government to do the Western Main Road project. You're going to take that money and do what you want. Just do what you want with it. It's an uninformed, in my view, backward statement, and it shows the lack of depth, the lack of maturity, and lack of experience from anyone who's mouthed off something like this. It simply does not understand how government operates. The Prime Minister did admit that he makes a lot of money. In effect, he was saying, that we manage the country well. So what he was saying, in effect, the money is there, and they have to now manage it to implement the programs which we had, including several of the opportunities to help the poor and vulnerable people in the country, which they have now cut back. Millions of additional dollars for the youth Imani program and helping the young people to empower themselves. We had that. No, that's not that money you just take and go and spend. Raise your salary by $2,000 a month. Abandoning the Prime Minister resident and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in new residents. You could spend it that way, or you could spend it investing in people, investing in development, providing cess, and providing opportunity for small business in the country. Mm-hmm. You can do so. So it's up to the philosophy of the government to utilize the resources. And that is precisely, I think, the people would have to call the government to account for the monies they say they met. And to us, If you met all that money, how come we in this dire economic situation where everybody's balling in the country at this particular time? What has happened to that money?
Okay, we have a caller on the overseas line. Go right ahead, caller. Hello? Okay, it seems...
Hello?
Yes, go right ahead, caller. You're live. You're live. Go right ahead.
I just wanted to send some very kind words to Dr. Mitchell tonight. Can you hear me? Good.
We're hearing you clearly. You ignore the whatever device you're listening on. Speak to us on the phone. We're hearing you clearly. Dr. Mitchell is hearing you. Go right ahead.
Dr. Mitchell, I want you to know that you are the best thing that has happened to Grenada in a very long time. Regardless of all of the negative comments, regardless of all of the opposition out there, you are in a category of your own. You have done so much for this country, and we want you to know that we have recognized your work, your contributions. They've been invaluable. We will never forget what you've done, all the people you've helped, and we want to encourage you at this time, even as the leader of the opposition, to do your part to continue to move us forward. You are loved, you are appreciated, and you are indeed, as I said, the best thing that we have had in a very long time. Good night to you and God bless.
Thank you, my friend. And just to say this, as far as I'm concerned, what I'm done throughout my life in politics is about serving people. And I made the point that when I decided to give up what I consider lucrative life in the United States to come here, it was about feeling that I had laid a foundation for myself financially and that I could afford to make a sacrifice in helping the dispossessed and the marginalized in our society. And I made this sacrifice to come home. And others have done it in different ways. So I don't feel, my sister, I thank you for the words of feeling of support that you've given me. But I feel that's part of my duty as a Christian person to do what I can. I'm not a perfect human being. I've made my own mistakes, but I believe that in service, I've attempted to do all I can to help the ordinary person in our country. And that's something that hurts me when I see our government comes in and cutting programs and cutting people's jobs and sending them home and seem to be laughing and enjoying it. It is hurtful. It feels me for those persons. And I just want to thank you for them. But to say that it is my contribution and the country owes me nothing. I believe all of us as Grenadians have a responsibility to do what we can to lift others in our society, and no one owes us anything. And I feel a sense of obligation to do what I can. But thank you very much, my dear sister, for those comments and support.
Yes, I think we have a caller online. Good night.
Good night.
Yes, caller, go right ahead.
Good night, Mr. Scott, and good night, Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell. Doctor, so lovely to see you. One thing I admire about you, Doc, is the way you always think about the poor people. I can say the total opposite for this government. And I was just wondering, is either the lead misleading the ministers or the ministers misleading the country? But the country just has an uncertain feel. The atmosphere is just uncertain. And Doc, you'll always go down in history. You did so much for this country. I have no words. Just to say a big thank you to you for all that you did for us. Good night.
Thank you, my dear sister. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, indeed. And Doc, we're going to take just one more question, but one more caller. But before we go to the phone lines again, just two quick questions. One, the situation with the Chinese houses. We're hearing that people now have to reapply in relation to the Chinese houses that were donated by the Chinese for the people of Grenada after being given up. And the second situation is we've been hearing the Prime Minister was speaking about buying a plane, but it seems as though now he's had to wheel back on that idea. Quickly on both of those.
The Chinese houses we went through a process, and not politician, the public service, the Ministry of Housing. So it's strange. The government is supposed to be a continuous institution. So we wonder how come people now, the same persons have to now reapply. It seems it marks an attempt at what you call curry favor or attempt at victimization again. But we are monitoring this and we will lend our voices very strongly. If the process that was not followed based on fairness, we are not going to allow this government to get away. It seems like in my own area here, there was some in all these villages, you have people appointing as little mayors and little gun gods and promising houses to people in the bush issue and so on. I'm laughing because I'm waiting to see what will be done in the name of government of this country. So clearly that is unfortunate, but that is what is happening. I don't know why it was done, who was given the orders to do something like this, but we are monitoring this and we will not keep our voices down. What's the other point you raised, Sheldon, quickly?
That's the issue. The Prime Minister saying would have bought a plane to service
As I said before, one advice I give the Prime Minister: talk less, keep it more effective. That's the only comment I need to make about that one.
Yes, it's folks. We're gonna have to cut it here. We know it's just 1 minute after 10, but Dr. Mitchell, we want to take your closing statement.
No, Sheldon, I'm very happy to have the opportunity. I intend to continue this dialogue on several media houses. I said this is 2023, and I intend to be much more active in making statements on issues that concerns the country as a whole. And I have my duty as a person who has been in the politics for a number of years is to continue to make contribution to defend the rights, particularly of the poor and dispossessed in the society. And I would never shock that responsibility that until the last breath leaves me, the people would know that I'm there to continue to defend what I consider to be their rights and nothing else. So once again, thank you, Sheldon, for this evening program, and I look forward to continue to be there again.
And thank you so very much for being with us tonight, Dr. Mitchell. And folks, yes, we've had with us Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, former Prime Minister, leader of His Majesty's opposition. And remember, we'll have more talking points tomorrow night. That's it for tonight. Tomorrow night, tune in again for more talking points. We're on Mondays to Fridays. You can tune into the Talking Points Facebook and YouTube page and the various stations that carry talking points on a nightly basis. My name is Sheldon Scott. Thank you to all the callers, to the technical team, everyone that worked to get tonight's program done properly. So we'd like to thank each and every one of you. And remember to like, share, and subscribe. If you're on the YouTube, subscribe to the page. If you're on Facebook, make sure you like the page, share the program, and we look forward to interacting and speaking with you all for the rest of this week. This week, if last week was just the smoke, this week is pure lava and fire. My name is Sheldon Scott. I'm out of here. Let me give you all a nice tune to end the program with tonight, man. Yeah, they've been asking for this tune since last week. We get them a little taste earlier. We're going to get them it now.
I'm a Grenadian to my heart and soul. Friends, I would travel all over this world. Anyway I go, I bound to come back. This is Grenada, this land of my butt. When I take a look at the horizon, only dotishness out there I seen. Hatred and evil in the hearts of men. Lack of manners, respect already gone. Shake it, Mitchell, boy. Samota mope moka hele. Mizena ladina, Mushe Mitchell, nam nakatu yevna. Shake it, Mitchell, boy. Samota mope moka hele. Mizena ladina, Mushe Mitchell, nam nakatu yevna. Wonders and signs in the hands of time. Fishes dying in the ocean. Grenada PD, Matnik and Caribou. Disasters and problems we going through. Mr. Keith Mitchell, boy. What are you afraid about it? Trouble in Grenada, Mr. Mitchell. Man start killing man. Oh, yeah. We don't Satan, when King Lucifer and Miss Jezebel have this little nation to join. Come, let's take this thing now to consider the damage they doing to Grenada when drug addicts, alcoholics, and even civilians start killing police. Shake it, Michel, boy. Samotan, mon père, mon kahele.